All right, we're going to show you how to skin a red fox. I've shown you a coon, I've shown you a coyote. I'm going to show you a red, which a red and a gray fox are about the same. They're a very thin piece of fur. They rip and tear real easy. Hopefully I don't do it. I've done it a few times. A couple people on Facebook, and I know you're going to comment, is going to share the few times that I've actually ripped these. So we'll get right into it, and we'll show you what to do and hopefully what not to do. So on a red fox, you have a color change. You got the red to the white. You want to go ahead and take your knife, stab it right into there. And you want to follow that line the best you can all the way up to the tip of the tail. And a lot of times at that point, so you're about right here, your knife's going to pop out as you're trying to follow that, and that's about as far as you're going to make there. You can re-go back in and finish it up, but I just wait till I get it from the tail side. You're going to work your fur back. Try not to cut the tendon like I just did. And the reason why I did that is actually I did it on purpose because I want to show you why you don't want to cut them. But we'll get to that point here in a sec. So just lightly work with your thumb, because that's all it's going to take. Just work it back with your thumb. I'm just taking and pinching and pushing my thumb back. Okay, so I've cut my tendon. When you do something like that, that's where we like to hook it, as you can see here. It gives it the support in your thing. Go ahead and carefully try to stab underneath the hide at the paw. It's going to be the strongest point, second strongest point. You want to jam it in there. Now, you're going to have to be careful with that because it's still going to want to pull off, but at least give us some support. Now let's try to do this without stabbing that tendon. So same thing, open it up, and you're basically following that tendon line up to the tip. So start by pulling the hair back. Now if you were wanting to keep the claws on, you would want to follow it all the way up to the pad and work it off for like something you want to put on the wall or something like that. But because this would be a market fox, we're not worried about saving that. So take your knife and just slice it off. And again, just take your thumb. Don't pull too hard, you'll rip it. But just try to get it rolled back a little bit. Now this is why we want to save our tendon. It hooks real easy and stays there. Now, this piece here will always give you trouble. I try to lightly cut into it without taking too much of that meat, without nicking the fur. So we'll do it without nicking the fur now. Those little nicks aren't going to kill you, but that can be a tear point, and it's better if you don't. So now that leg's free. We'll do the same thing with the other side, but like I was saying, you're at this point right here. What we do is we actually stab right in the base of the tail, and I just take and turn and walk it right up into it. That way you've got a nice line. I dig really deep. You don't have to dig that deep, but I've always done it that way. That way I make sure I puncture all the way through. So we've got all that. Now, try to carefully work all that down, pulling gently in this area right here. This is where a lot of people will ruin their fur. You pull too hard, it rips and it tears right there. Just lightly work it back. Do the same thing to the other side. Walk it right up to your other cut. Again, cut that real lightly. sharper the knife, the better. And then just try to work it down best you can. What I'm going to do is actually, because this is my bad side, and you see how deep it is. If for some reason, pull this back a little bit. If for some reason you're really scared that you're going to ruin that fur, cut that meat. It's not going to hurt anything. Just remember, where you cut that meat, you're going to end up back into skin. Work my thumb. See, by cutting that meat, now I've freed that area up. All that's left is right here at that weak tear spot. Just lightly give it a pull. So now we're at the base of the tail. You can screw this up in 2 seconds by making the wrong cut. You can do that, or you can do what I like to do. Work it back with your thumb and punch her all the way through. No knife is involved. Just lightly pull it down. Flip your knife upside down and just work it down. Not pulling too hard. You will lose a tail every time if you don't pay attention to what you're doing. Grab a tail stripper. Yeah. So I just broke the tail loose. Now most of the people are going to continue pulling this way. Pull the tailbone out. If you were to continue pulling the tail, this beautiful bushy tail will be half on, half off. So pull the tailbone out. Okay, now we're at the stage of the belly. Again, I'm just working with my thumb, kind of like I did that muskrat. You're just kind of working it out, getting it away, and you're clearing everything up. Now this is a male. We don't need all the extras on the package, so we'll leave it there. On a female, you can go up and a little bit higher. You can cut it right in there. It's not going to hurt anything. Now, at this point, you've got your hips clear. I'm going to point something out. On a fox, a coyote, a gray fox, this green right here, and I hope you guys can pick it up, is stomach acid. This here will get darker and darker and your hair will slip. It goes onto this area and it makes it a weak spot. This happens most of the time within 6 to 12 hours. It starts to turn a light green, and the darker it gets by 24 hours, sometimes a little bit longer, will actually start rotting your fur. So the faster you get it off the animal or cooled down or to your fur buyer, the better off you're not going to lose your fur. So just kind of point that out a little bit. That's another thing that we've had a lot of issues with. So at this point, do what we always do. Lop the legs off. We're cutting the legs off to where we're about 2 inches down from the elbow roughly. Everything's free there. Go ahead and raise it up. Now, like I said before, you can hook these in the skinning machine. I don't like to. They're easy to pull off and less likely to rip. So we'll make a couple small little knives to make your life a lot easier. Okay. The closer you keep your hands to the fur, the less likely you're going to rip it. Now this is why we cut the legs off before we get to this point. Take my thumb, like we did up in the uppers, and we work it right through. Easy to clear. You're not picking your knife up, you're not putting holes in the fur, you're not ruining a nice piece of fur. Pull them out. Okay, we're at the head area. Keep real tight. Okay. When they don't want to give, which I was actually pulling more than I've ever pulled before, most of the time, as you've seen, I rolled my hand up into the fur, made a nice tight ball. If you kept down by the lower part of the legs, you would have ripped it right at the belly area. We're gonna just work the knife around. It's probably a little cold and frozen because it's been sitting in a freezer for a couple days. There we go. Okay, just like the coyote, fox are the same way, just like the coon. You got your top side of the head, clear that up. This is all your ear cartilage. Walk it around, cut towards the meat, work that all open. Now, again, most of you cut up in here, you got to dig that out when you go to put it on a board because this is going to rot if you don't do it. So I cut it down below, cutting up towards the skull cavity. So now your ear is majority to where I can stick my thumb up in there, split that apart. So you don't have to rip it off, just open it up and it'll get air up in there and dry out nice and you won't split or lose your ear. Same thing on the other side. You can also stick your knife through the back side, tip upward just a touch, and rock your knife out. Go back into it. We'll tuck this ear back in so it's easier for me to show you guys. I'm sorry this is taking longer, but I want to show you guys the right way of doing this. Work that down. This will be your eyes. So on a fox's head, boom, roll into the eye right there. So we cut towards the tear duct, into it, not out, into it. Same thing on the other side. Give it a nice little pull from the ear. Cutting up on the high side. There's your eye. Cut into it. So majority of it just came with me. Just like that. Okay, so now we're into the cheeks. We'll do the other side. Now, I've been showing everybody mark it, cutting it off. I'm going to show you real quick on this fox how I do the bottom jaw. So I work my nose off. I leave the jaw on. I'm working my nose down like I do at every other animal. I get down to the tip of the nose and walk it right off. So we've got majority of it off. Cut it right back towards it. It's a real thin nose. Now we're into the bottom jaw. Work on the sides, wherever it's hanging up, while you're pulling. The weight of the animal pulls it down. Now, at this point, you're going to have to open the jaw up just a little bit. Sometimes they're frozen, so you're going to have to pry at it. Free that up. And you just walked it all the way off to the tip. So now, we'll go ahead and flip it and show you the finished product. Right here is a perfectly put up red fox. Tip to tail. This is what it would be looking like on a stretcher board. If you want to tan it, the lip would stay in. Your ears are all available. We would next go into giving it a bath, cleaning the blood off, getting all the mud out, putting a box fan, drying it up. So that's how you skin a fox. You don't need a skinning machine. You don't want a skinning machine. A gray fox or red fox skin very easy, a little bit of pulling. The tighter you stay to the body when you're pulling, the less likely you're gonna rip this beautiful hide. So hope you guys enjoyed. We'll have some more videos coming soon.